Welcome, no. Welcome to another episode of Bandwagon Sports Podcast. Fayaz, you predicted a cramp game by LeBron yesterday. Is this what you had in mind?
No, this is not what I had in mind. And if this is the sequel to the Cramp game for LeBron, then I don't even want to know what the sequel to the Headband game is going to be.
Oh no. Somebody runs onto the court with a razor blade or something. Tries to shave his hair off or something.
I don't know. I hope not. I mean, the eye is a very sensitive organ, so.
Yeah, true. Yep.
Whew,
So what are your thoughts?
Man, I couldn't believe what I saw yesterday. Number one, in 2014, I would never expect a $350 million quote-unquote state-of-the-art arena to not be air-conditioned, for a generator to go out and there to be no backup generator to air-condition the arena. And I'm from Texas. I'm not an athlete, but I've done that. I played basketball, ran a half marathon, and 90-degree heat. It's hot. I mean, it's hot. It can definitely take a lot of toll on the body. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I've never heard something like this. When I saw the temperature rising up there, watching on TV, and I'm thinking, man, this is like Middle Eastern weather out there, or or Houston, in the summer maybe, that kind of weather. In Chicago, we don't see that kind of thing, that kind of level of humidity plus heat. We usually get the heat, but we don't get the humidity as much. And to just see the fans there, almost less concerned about clapping and cheering, but more about trying to keep themselves cool and fanning themselves frantically. Riley's Brill cream was probably dripping into his eyes. Popovich's shirt was just, oh god, after the game, it was not a good look at all. No undershirt, white shirt look, drenched in sweat. You could half see through his shirt. It was just a bad situation all around.
I know you were a little late to the game, but Jeff Van Gundy was
Yeah.
even talking about how he was uncomfortable. He was.
Oh my god.
I mean, I remember walking across the University of Houston campus, 10 years ago, on a 110-degree day and just sweating through 2 layers.
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine doing that while, running up and down the court, full speed.
Yeah, big time. I mean, I don't think either of these teams could have been prepared for what happened. It was just a real thing. And let's come back to what you said about the state-of-the-art facilities. I mean, that's a pretty. I mean, we do know things happen sometimes, but that's pretty bad in the sense that we're talking the NBA Finals. You think they double-check the circuit breaker, or whatever that was damaged, and you'll do triple checks. If this was a game in February or some insignificant game at 81 or 82 game of the season, nobody really cares. Okay, AC's out. You can half-heartedly go through it, but we're talking the NBA Finals.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's pretty bad. It's a bad situation all around.
Looking at the game,
Yeah.
The game. So the game, the Heat started off kind of, I think in second or third gear. Spurs had a 5-point lead at the first half. I thought the Heat, and then we saw in the third quarter, they picked it up and they won the third quarter. They outscored the Spurs by I think 5 or 6 points, and they came out firing in the third quarter. Bosh hit some threes. They're up 7 points, and around that 8-minute mark, the Heat were up about 5 or 7 points, and I really felt that they had the momentum kind of going forward to close this out.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that's when the effects of the heat and the cramps really hit LeBron.
Yeah.
And and he sort of had to take himself out. And he's so important to them.
Yeah, no question about it. As the game wore on, and I was watching more. I missed the beginning of the game, but you could tell on both sides, the amount of turnovers that were happening yesterday from both teams was so uncharacteristic. You could kind of see, as the game went longer and longer, you could see it was taking a toll on the players. Silly mistakes, ball like slipping out of their hands, like really lame passes on both sides sometimes. And like you said, one like I thought that too. It seemed like Miami was getting a little bit of momentum, and then suddenly, LeBron like had to like sub himself out once. Then he like took a break, then came back, tried to give it a go, and I think he went for like a layup, and after that he just like he couldn't even walk back, like near the end in the fourth, and like we say this a lot, right? Like there's very few other players who have to do as much as LeBron for his team. He does like everything on offense, everything on defense. Like the running joke I've been saying for the last 3 years has been this whole idea that there's a big three in Miami. It's really LeBron carrying this team and like two very good players with him. Like he has to do too much work, and like that's what happened. Unfortunately, you could see the effects of that yesterday. He was affected the most, probably because he was burning the most calories and probably losing the most, on the Heat roster. If you look at the Spurs, their game is predicated on passing multiple 5-6 passes, each guy getting, averaging less than 19 points a game. That's the kind of game they've been playing through the season. Duncan had a big game, but I'm just saying in general, they kind of distribute the stuff around. Versus with the Heat, everything has to be concentrated with LeBron first, and then everything else. And so when you have a situation like this, he really felt it. Let's not forget he's had a history with this. Unfortunately, in the past, I think in Oklahoma, I remember a game he had to go out.
That was the cramp game.
What's that?
That was the cramp game. Game 4.
That was the Fayad's cramp game, like LeBron cemented himself kind of thing. And even against the Mavs, I remember he had to like step out for a bit. He was like cramping up. It maybe wasn't as serious as yesterday, but there were times when he had to like literally, he could barely, hold it together.
Yeah.
You brought up a great point to me earlier today. You shot me a text. This idea about the athletes today, and they're wearing these compression tights and like multiple layers to let the sweat go out and cool themselves. That might have had a detrimental effect on LeBron with all this Under Armour gear or whatever, that type of gear that these athletes wear. What do you think about that?
Totally agree. I mean, look, it was 90 degrees.
Yeah.
On the court, and probably if you calculate heat index or real temperature, whatever. I mean, the heat. I mean, no pun intended. No pun intended. So we're not trying to get fired here. This is a weather term.
It's a weather term.
It's a meteorological term.
Continue.
So it's probably like really 95 to 100 degrees.
Yeah, sure.
And he's trapping some heat into his body. I mean,
actually, it will be.
He should have just. I mean, from a risks versus benefit ratio.
Yeah.
Probably would have been better just for him to take off everything and just have his jersey on. That way, like, whatever was leaving his body, he could cool off faster. Maybe some of the sweat would retain. I mean,
even with the shorts, like they wear like 2-3 compression shorts underneath. You're on the medical field. Like, what do you do in this situation? Like, what are the types of things that like the medical professionals like who are taking care of these players? What should they be looking for, and what should they be doing during the game to help this and alleviate?
I think plenty of hydration.
Yeah.
Ice like they were doing. I might have put ice just on his chest to slow his heart rate down. Slow the heart rate down. That is a powerful muscle in your body that uses a lot of energy.
Yeah.
If you can slow it down, you can conserve some energy, and maybe they should have given him an IV at the half.
Yeah, I think the IV at the half issue they were saying was maybe just a time issue because like it wasn't like something that they had pre-planned.
Yeah.
But like it's interesting. It's almost like we have all this new tech with like the clothing and the wick layers and like multiple layers, but maybe a low-tech approach might have prevented this.
Yeah. And also like. They're playing in an NBA arena, and it's not a hospital, so they probably might have been limited in really what they could have done. Like in the game to prevent this. But
Yeah.
it was just an unfortunate thing, and I mean like call me a homer, but I think I feel that's the reason that he lost his game more than anything, more than the Spurs shooting it up at the end of the quarter. I mean, I think by the 3-minute mark, I think the Heat sort of realized like, yeah, it's probably not going to happen with LeBron on the bench.
Yeah, and like Spo did the right thing. I think LeBron said he tried to give it one last go, but at that point, all you're doing is risking injury. At that point,
Yeah.
The worst thing you wanted was he tries to play hero, comes out onto the court, suddenly like pulls a calf muscle, ruled out for the finals, and that's pretty much your title. That's just like you can't do something that stupid. So that was smart on Spo's part, not even let him get back on.
Do you think the Heat training staff, once they found out in the first quarter, second quarter, whatever it was, that the AC was down, do you think maybe at that point, maybe they should have been like, all right, we better do something because
LeBron's had this before and kind of thing?
LeBron's had this before. Like Brian Windhorst, I was listening, he basically said that he's covered LeBron since high school, and when the AC went out, he was like sensing that, okay, LeBron could be in trouble here.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, another thing, again, we don't want, for our audience, we don't want to make it too medical, but you being in the medical field, like, there was another guy on True TV. They were talking about how this new trend of athletes and like the supplements they take now, like all athletes take them, like to recover and stuff, like when they work out, like creatine and stuff. Does that have an effect, a dehydrating effect on when they don't take enough fluids, and that can cause cramping? Do you know anything about that?
Yeah, I mean, like, thing is, like, if they're exerting themselves so much and they're not hydrated, they can have muscle breakdown.
Yeah.
That muscle.
It's a big risk, right? Especially when they're taking all these extra things to like try to like push them even further, jump higher, run faster, kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, they need proper electrolytes for these muscles to contract and fire. And if their muscles are breaking down and those breakdown products are going into the kidneys are failing to some mild degree and they're not reabsorbing those key electrolytes. That could cause
a vicious cycle.
It's kind of a vicious cycle that could cause them to, cramp up and maybe not be as optimal at their peak performance.
Sure. You brought up electrolytes, and we had a little bit of extracurricular stuff going on with electrolytes.
Before we start,
okay.
I mean, we're both like semi-active individuals. You played rugby, you ran track, you played basketball. I think you're like in a softball league or something. No, maybe soccer league. I don't know. There's some. Okay. I mean, like, I try to run in this and that. I'm somewhat a weekend warrior. What's your go-to drink? Like, what do you use?
It's funny that you say that. I actually drink more Powerade than Gatorade, and I have a very simple reason. Because when I walk into the 7-Eleven, Powerade's usually on sale, and it's like $2 for $3. So I usually just buy that. It's all the same to me.
And I'm the opposite.
Okay.
I'm the opposite. I'm always looking for that edge, something that's gonna help me run that 1/10 of a mile longer, that little bit faster.
Nice.
And I go for the Gatorade.
Nice.
Just because.
Very nice.
It lasts longer. I think it tastes better personally.
Yeah.
I'm a fan of South Beach water as well. That's another one. I don't think Powerade or Gatorade makes that. But yeah, I'm a Gatorade guy. But after last night's game, I think I may reconsider.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. I have been drinking Powerade. I mean, D-Rose also does Powerade, so gotta represent him too.
You ever do generic drinks?
Oh yeah, I do generic drinks. Why not?
Like a CVS, Walgreens brand.
Yeah, I don't think I've done the Energy CVS or Walgreens brand. I might have had like some like generic grocery store like Orange Pop or something.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. But yeah, it's interesting. What did you think of that whole? It was funny, and then it wasn't funny anymore. But it was I could see what was going on the Twitter feed, and we always see this happen with Twitter. Like some corporate Twitter handle will be run by some intern having a little fun, and then not realizing they're going to get in big trouble. And what do you think of that whole thing?
I don't think it was the smartest decision by Gatorade
Yeah,
to respond to fans.
yeah,
I'm not gonna lie, I've been guilty at, I had a little feud with American Airlines on Twitter. I
sure.
poked and prodded them, but
Yeah.
uh, I never think it's smart for a big corporation to
To
respond
ever get into the
to a Twitter beef with the
yeah.
consumer.
Because
That's my
like the
take.
fans are just gonna throw like there's gonna be like 100 people always spewing stuff. You don't have to respond. As soon as you respond to one, then like everyone thinks they have a license to like send even more stuff out.
And as a guy that's trying to initiate, as not a guy, someone who's trying to initiate beef with Gatorade, probably your whole goal is to get free Gatorade.
Yeah, pretty much,
Probably.
definitely. Yeah, I thought, and it was kind of funny because like some of the comments from that Gatorade Twitter feed were like, we were waiting on the sidelines, but he chooses another product. But like the fact is, the NBA only allows athletes to use Gatorade or water, which is why you don't see like Blake Griffin drink Red Bull on the sideline because he can't. He's not allowed to.
Yeah.
So that's why LeBron does the whole like rip off the label thing. That's like a kind of a concession they've made. The league has allowed that with him because they know he's a high-profile competitor, endorser of Powerade. So I just found that interesting.
Yeah, I mean, maybe that's something that the NBA Players Association may propose in the next CBA is let athletes drink whatever they want to drink.
Yeah,
It's not alcoholic.
I could see them try to do that, and I think somebody from the Players Association or ex-Players Association was kind of mad about that. But like, the reality is, you really in today's corporate world, and that let's be honest, as much as we love the game of basketball as a sport and all this stuff, it's a corporation, it's business, and like everything is dictated by sponsors, right? It's why when LeBron and Wade get up there, there's always a Gatorade bottle there. And like LeBron will either move it to the side or he'll kind of like, so it won't be right in front of him. And Dwayne will always like drink out of it usually often or something like that, just because Dwayne's like pretty much the number one Gatorade sponsor, right? He's like the guy.
Yeah.
So it's just a reality of today's game, you could say.
Yeah.
So I thought it was another.
Yeah, I thought it was fun.
It added another wrinkle to the whole.
Yeah. Oh, totally. I mean, and maybe I'm sure there's those pundits out there that, hey, maybe just plain old water.
Yeah, maybe or maybe didn't Carmelo used to like endorse milk back in the day? So maybe he wants to pull out Got Milk, chocolate milk, something.
T-Mac actually endorses vitamin water.
There you go.
Yeah. So kind of looking forward, like, how do you see the rest of the series playing out?
I mean, like before the series began, you asked me, and I was waffling back and forth on Heat in 7 or Spurs in 7, and I finally settled on Spurs in 7. So I don't think yesterday really changed anything. I mentioned this to you on Twitter yesterday. There's a couple of things going in the Heat's favor. Number one, yesterday, not only did you have the whole issue of yesterday being the AC game or the cramp game, but it was also the Danny Green game, so maybe he's already run out of threes. There's like one game in a series where Danny Green will hit a bunch of threes.
Yeah, I agree. Unfortunately, I don't feel yesterday was that game because
you don't think so? Like he was hitting everything at the end. He missed everything at the beginning.
Yeah, but I think
and then he hit like 3 or 4 at the end.
But part of that I feel was just the Heat. I think the Heat just gave up at the end, and they were like.
Yeah, what did you think about that? I think Spoelstra mentioned this last night, and he made no excuses about the LeBron going out, but I think he was more annoyed with like how his team kind of just, like you said, almost gave up as soon as LeBron went out.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly, even when he went out of the game, like I had a feeling he's probably not gonna be able to give it a go.
Yeah,
I thought we would see a little more of Dwayne Wade take over.
And also I think like if you saw the rotations on defense were really bad. Like there were some shots where Green was just wide open.
Yeah. And I think part of that maybe that is where they missed LeBron because LeBron is so fast and so athletic he can cover so much ground that.
Yeah.
I mean he makes up it's weird because he's a perimeter guy, but I feel like
He'll make up for the mistakes
he
of the
makes
guys
up for so
who
many
miss their
mistakes on
rotation.
defense. But that's really kind of what disappointed me a little bit yesterday is that at least they weren't able to put up at least a fight without LeBron in there.
Yeah.
Um,
So yeah,
but-
you were asking about the series. I think it's going to continue. It's going to be a slugfest. These teams are going to exchange, wins on each other's floors. And I think it's going to really come down to plays here and there, which will decide each game. It's going to be a tough series, I think. I don't think the Heat are too worried. If you saw Wade yesterday, he was pretty relaxed. The Heat have been here before. It's almost like a routine with Miami ever since the big three got together. They lose game one, and they just kick it up a notch, and they just go nuts. It like almost always happens. I don't think they've been down. Have they ever been down 2-0 since
they've never been down 2-0 in the.
They've never been down, right?
No. LeBron's been down 2-0 before.
No, but I mean since they formed this.
Yeah, in the big three era, never.
Yeah, in Miami, that's what I'm saying. So that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, and yeah, I mean, it's weird. Like I saw a lot of positives yesterday's game. I don't know how much of it is real or was from the Heat situation, but they defended the pick and roll pretty well, and they kept Tony Parker in check. The only thing that concerned me is we saw Tiago Splitter and Tim Duncan getting a lot of easy shots in the paint, which I think was by design from the Heat that they were like, we're not going to let Tony Parker beat us. We'll give you all that underneath stuff, and we'll for Duncan and Splitter and see if our inside guys can protect the paint. And I had the Heat taking one of these two games in San Antonio, and I still think they played well enough. I think they showed me enough in game one to make me feel I think they can win game two, and then protect their home court, probably close it out in 6. But it could go 6 or 7. I mean, it's going to be a hard-fought, back and forth series. But I mean, for the Heat to have any chance, they got to have LeBron. At 90.
Oh yeah, and I think he will be there. He talked to him today, and he said he'll be fine. This was luckily it wasn't an injury. This was purely a fatigue and cramp issue. So he's been getting IVs yesterday, and he's taking it easy today, and he'll be back in training tomorrow. So I think he'll be back. He'll have no real problems. It's just a matter of, I think on the Heat's end, they have to continue to play smart and aggressive on defense, and they have to close out on shooters. They can't put it all on LeBron. Guys like Chalmers, guys like Battier. If you're in the game, Cole, Rashard Lewis, you can't get beat like when they're doing that extra pass. You just can't give them open threes.
And for their credit, they were pretty good yesterday about closing out on shooters. Like Manu hit a few threes early on, but that was just more in transition where he was able to catch the defense off balance. So AT&T Center.
Yeah.
Can we still call it a state-of-the-art facility?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's a bad situation. I mean, you got to do better than that. I mean, I know things happen sometimes and they're out of your control, but it's just not a good look, right, for the NBA, like for the NBA Finals. I mean, people will say, hey, things can happen. We all remember when like half of New York was out of power, and things happen sometimes. We know that, but like, it just sucks that it had to happen during the finals.
Has this reinforced anything I've told you about San Antonio in the past?
I heard the Riverwalk's not exactly the greatest place on earth. I mean, I heard it's decent.
For those of you out there that are new to the show or new to the Faiyaz Ahmed Al Hadari dynamic, I'm not the biggest fan of the city of San Antonio.
Yeah, Faiyaz I've never been. Faiyaz has, and he's not a fan.
I've heard it's improved,
Yeah, so yeah, you're speaking from experience.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I mean, I know it's not Chicago, so that's all I know.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So, moving on, just maybe taking a look around the NBA real quick. What do you make of this Kevin Love situation? And are you hoping he visits Chicago?
I mean, am I hoping he considers Chicago and the Bulls make a move?
No, like he visits. physically visits. Like,
Oh, visit.
takes a
You
trip.
know, I think the Boston thing was like a real red herring. You know, like I still don't buy. Like some people are saying, like he really wants to go to Boston and all this stuff. I just don't see it. I mean, is Brad Stevens that great of a coach? I mean, come on.
I feel like
There's not enough pieces there.
But don't you feel that him going to Boston is just essentially they would be the Minnesota
Minnesota East, right? Yeah, it would just be on the East
Jeff
Coast. It
Green,
would be
Kevin
Minnesota
Martin,
on the East Coast.
Rondo,
Yeah,
Rubio.
that's exactly what they would be. I don't think they would be any better. You know, with regards to the Love thing, you know, the Bulls are in an interesting position. You know, obviously, I think their number one and option and target is Melo. It's still Melo. But the risk is Melo doesn't become a free agent until July, right? And so that's when teams can kind of start like pursuing him, whether it's the Rockets, the Bulls, and all the other teams that are going to be chasing Melo, right? Now, by then, Kevin Love might have already been traded. So Bulls are in a weird scenario. Do we just go for option B, Kevin Love, and like try to get the deal done, and then realize that okay, we're out of the Melo sweepstakes, but at least we got the second best player available right now, or do we wait, hold off, risk going after Melo, and then end up with nothing at the end of the summer?
All right, so here's my take on this Chicago situation. Based on what you just told me. Well, number one, with the Melo situation, of the two players, I think Melo's the superior player. I think he's got.
And I think he's a better fit more than anything.
Better fit, definitely a better fit. He can play the small forward. You know, he's probably got like 2.5 to 3 years at kind of this level that he's at right now.
Yeah.
I think going to Chicago, being a healthy Derrick Rose, hopefully will make his job even easier. But the only thing like I keep hearing, and maybe you can give me some clarity on this, is that Chicago would really have to give up a lot, kind of gut their team to clear an $88 million, cap slot for Melo.
Yeah, we're basically gonna have to do a deal.
What would you have to exactly give up?
Yeah, so it would be like Taj, Jimmy Butler, two picks. Because we got 2 first-round picks this year. We might have to like give up the rights to Mirotic, who's like considered like the top player in Europe right now, for the last like 2 years. So those are like, yeah, it ends up being a heavy kind of thing. So you're gonna end up with kind of like a Melo, Noah, Rose, and then Boozer at this point would probably be amnestied. So you'd have basically Noah, Rose, and Melo, and then a bunch of like minimum guys kind of thing. So like almost like you could say a poor man's Big Three version of Miami. You know what I'm saying? Like in the sense that it'll be 3 main guys taking up all the salary cap, and then everybody else has to fit in either into the minimum slot or that MLE, that they usually have. So it would be a very different dynamic.
Do you think it's worth it?
I mean,
do you think by giving up that much to get a player of Melo's caliber, like you're not taking one step forward, getting him, but how many steps back are you taking?
Yeah, I think the NBA has shown time and time again it's a stars league. It's players who will end up as Hall of Famers usually, who get it done, who win championships. And to do that, if you can go after a all-star caliber player, whether it's Kevin Love, whether it's Melo, you have to go and try to hit a home run. It's better to try to swing for the fences and like strike out than like just try to bunt every time and be like, okay, we're gonna have a bunch of hard hat lunch pailers, that whole like mid-level guy, like that really hard worker who overachieves, Taj Gibson, Chandler Parsons. Those are great guys to have, but like at the end of the day, you need to have multiple stars to win titles.
And those are the contracts that kill you the most. Those 5-year, $35 million contracts.
They hurt you the most.
3-and-D type players, i.e. Trevor Ariza.
Exactly. There's another one.
Yeah.
Nice guy, solid, has his friends, but
now,
you're neither here nor there.
Yeah, and like when you tell me that, right, it makes me think from the Chicago perspective. Okay, how much? Now, what would you have to give up to get Love?
I think Love again. Rick Bierko was on Wild on Sylvie a couple of days ago, and they were talking to him, and like it's going to be a similar kind of thing. If Minnesota has resigned to the fact that Kevin Love's leaving, the majority of the stuff that they're going to get offered and want back will be picks, right? So it'll be our 2 first-round picks. They're both in the teens, I think. it would be Nikola Miritic's draft rights, who's considered like the top prospect in Europe, and then maybe Taj and Jimmy. So that's a lot to give, but you'd have to give a lot to get a player like that.
And look at the two guys. Like I think you put Carmelo Anthony, pencil him in on the Bulls. I think he'll get the same 25 points. I think his defense will be a little better in Thibodeau's system. But with Kevin Love, I wonder how he would fit in Chicago. Like, would he go into Chicago and then maybe, Tibbs figures out like, wow, he really can't defend the way I want him to defend in my system, and then would he kind of become would his numbers come? What I mean? Would he go from being this 26 awesome player to like a 15 and 9?
Tyson Chandler, like an 8 and 1.
Yeah, or like an upgraded Ryan Anderson type guy.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good question. I think with Love, the issue is, I don't think Tibbs would be too worried about the defense, just because Tibbs has shown multiple times he can take below average players and get them to play above average defense, just the way he gets at guys. Number two, we've got Kevin Love and Rose. We know they've trained in the offseason like the last 2-3 years. I don't know if they're doing it this summer, but they've usually trained in the past with Westbrook, along with Westbrook. So they get along really well. We already know there's chemistry there. Love's range from the three-point line is a huge factor, which would help the Bulls, because the Bulls right now, at the end of the season, with as the worst offense in the NBA, they were like 30 out of 30 or some crap like that. So, like we ended up like with the 4th seed or whatever it was, but the reality was our offense just stinks. We need guys to score, and we need guys who can shoot threes. We're actually I think we're at 28 or 26, something like that, like really down there in three-point percentage. And we know in today's NBA game, Miami's a testament to this. That's one of their strengths. San Antonio's a testament to this. That's one of their strengths. The best teams have really good three-point shooters, and that's how you got to succeed.
It's funny is, I feel today's NBA, if you have shooters, I think shooting can turn average at best offense into an above average, maybe elite offense.
Oh, big time. I mean, it's all to do with analytics. It's the influx of analytics, and people have realized that the mid-range shot is your useless shot, and that's why it's dying out. Because it's a low percentage 2, you'd rather go for a 3. It's simple statistics.
Yeah.
And that's why we've seen like the eras of like the 80s and the 90s of the throwing it down low to Jordan at the top of the key, and he would pivot and do that little fake and do a little shot, or the Rip Hamilton come and hit a 2 off 2 double screens and stuff. That mid-range game is going to be gone, because you need to be a very good three-point shooter and then be able to drive in the thing. Those are the two things you need to
do. In the 90s, as basketball, NBA has evolved,
it evolves. I'm not trying to compare it.
I'm trying to bring up my next point. Yeah, it evolves, and as it's evolved, the NBA has kind of made changes to keep up with the evolution of basketball. We had an era in the 90s where we had a bunch of elite post-up players, whether it be centers, power forwards, yada yada, even some point guards, and they instituted that 5-second rule. Mm-hmm. And then offense kind of got too bogged down, and then they went to a zone defense. Do you think now that the pick and roll is so essential to basketball? Like every team runs multiple pick and rolls. Like they use their pick and roll to get in the lane to set up shooters and set up their whole offense. Do you think the NBA the next rule change might be is limit the number of pick and rolls you can set on one possession?
I mean, I think that would be almost impossible to do. It would really bog down the game and turn basketball into basketball's a game of ebb and flow, and you can kind of let things happen and stuff, and continuation and this and that. And I think if they get into the minutia of trying to stop, you're only allowed 5 of these type of possessions and 4 of those type of possessions, I think it would really hurt the game in the long term, and it would turn it into kind of like playing chess. Almost like a football thing. I'm not hating on football, but I'm saying it's a very different game. It's like a start-stop, start-stop kind of game, and that's what basketball would end up being, and that's not really how it is. So I think that's why it would hurt the game.
Yeah. So looking a little bit more around the league. What do you think about this whole Derek Fisher situation with the Knicks?
For sure. I mean, I think it's his job to turn down. You know, I mean, this is Phil Jackson's second choice, right? He went for Steve Kerr.
Mm-hmm.
He, decided it's better for him to stay closer to his family. And I'm not hating on any person to choose. You're allowed to choose whatever job you want to take.
Mm-hmm.
And he took the Warriors job. So Phil's gonna offer this job to Derek, and he's gonna decide. What I find interesting is, some of the commentators, the same commentators who are hating on the fact that Steve Kerr had an option to coach the Knicks or the Warriors, those same commentators aren't coming out and saying, how come Derek Fisher is, getting offered these kind of high-profile jobs when he's never had, previous experience. I just don't like that double standard. Because it leads to campaigning for certain people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I don't like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's
and I have nothing against it. If Fisher becomes a coach, that's cool. But I don't like this idea of on one hand you criticize Kerr for not having experience when, first of all, he was a front office GM. He's had experience dealing with players. And then the same thing happens with Fisher. Mark Jackson, don't forget, was just a broadcaster, and he became a coach.
Yeah.
He was complaining then.
No, everyone was happy.
Yeah, they were like, "Oh, he's due. I'm like, "Okay, sure, well done. Why not give Steve a chance too?"
If you're an executive at ABC or ESPN, what would you tell Mark Jackson? In terms of when he says, "quote unquote," amen to that.
I mean, I think it's a pretty innocuous term. I don't think it's too much. It's not like he's really I don't think he's the first person to say it, for starters. I mean, a lot of people say that. I've heard it multiple times from several announcers. People could take it the wrong way, but I don't think it's if he said something overtly maybe Christian or something like that, which other people will be like, "Hey, you're excluding us," then I could see them, ESPN be like, "Hey, come on, just tone it down a little bit." And I don't know if he's done it before, but well, that's my take on that. I think the amen thing, I mean, it's no big deal. I think it's a pretty small thing in the grand scheme of things.
And one more thing about last night's, the Heat game or the AC game, where we saw LeBron's, lean muscle mass kind of work against him.
Yeah, because that's another good point, brother. Yeah.
Do you think Boris Diaw's lack of muscle and maybe extra body weight may have helped him in this situation?
I wouldn't put it past him. People are always hating on Diaw and his way and that he should lose weight, but I mean, he's there to shoot threes and make plays, and he does both at his current weight. So I mean, it's not like he's Antoine Walker where he physically can't do the stuff that he's supposed to be doing, right? Like Sean Kemp. Remember when Sean Kemp really put on a lot of weight? He couldn't do what he used to be able to do. Diaw is still doing what he's being asked to do. He's making plays. He's still the second best playmaker on the Spurs after Tony Parker.
He's also Tony Parker's best.
Right, and then he still can hit those threes. So, and I think the extra girth just gives him that strength down low where it makes it harder to box him out.
Yeah, maybe. So, you're the soccer guy. Anything you want to share with us about soccer?
The World Cup. I mean, everyone's looking forward to the World Cup next week. It's going to be big time. The biggest event in the world in terms of outside of the Olympics. I think it's going to be a blast. ESPN's going all out with their coverage. I'm really looking forward to it. I think everyone's just going to have a really good time.
Do you think Brazil's going to be ready?
Brazil are definitely. Oh, you mean the country?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're still in doldrums, and there's going to be stadiums which are half finished and stuff like that. So there's always those kind of scenarios when these things happen in some of these unfortunately in these other countries.
Are these stadiums usually air conditioned?
No, because they're outside. They're outdoors. Soccer stadiums are outdoors. Oh. It's actually going to be really hot. So they've actually instituted for a couple of the games. I don't know what areas they're all in, where if the humidity and heat is too high by the officials, they're actually going to allow the referees to have a quick have the players have a quick water break. Because usually in soccer it's 45 minutes straight, halftime and then 45 minutes. There's no timeout.
Oh, I didn't know that.
That's the first time they've given discretion up to the officials that if the medical guys on the side say, hey, it's too hot or too humid, you need to have a quick water break, they might do that. But I think it's going to be a blast of a tournament. I'm really looking forward to it.
Who you got winning?
You know, a lot of people have Brazil, as the home team, and they're the odds-on favorites right now. I think outside the teams that I support and stuff like that, I think Argentina is going to go really far, and I think Germany is going to go really far. So I think between those three, you're gonna kind of see probably the winner come on, and Spain, of course, the defending champions. But I think they're going to have a little difficulty this year, Spain. I don't know.
I like Argentina simply because I'm a fan of the uniforms.
Oh yeah, your classic light blue partial favoritism, right? Just like how you're a Man City fan. Nice.
Yeah.
The best was when I asked you your favorite Argentina player, right? And I said he's like one of the two best players in the history of the world or something. And he chose the wrong one.
Manu Ginobili.
No.
Is it
It was Messi.
Oh.
You did Ronaldo. At least you got one of the two. Even though he's from Portugal.
I mean, it's close.
Tried.
Same region, the world.
Yeah, not really, but okay. One's in Europe and one's in South America.
Okay. Same sport.
Same sport. Yeah. At least you got the same sport.
Yeah.
So.
Who do you got in the French Open final?
French Open. Oh yeah. Your guy Joker beat my. No, Nadal beat Murray, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going with Joker with the upset. Nadal is Mr. French. Like he's the legend who just never loses on clay. I think he's 85-1 or something crazy like that on clay. I think the Joker's gonna get him. I think the Joker's gonna do it.
If the Joker gets him, do you think we may see Rafa grab his knee, stretch his ankle out a little bit?
Yeah, that's just part and parcel. And I have a huge amount of respect for Rafa, but that's just part and parcel of Rafa, where if he's losing, suddenly his hamstrings are going, his palm is blistered, or something's gone wrong. It's just how it is. It's the same way how when Federer would always lose, he'd mention something about how he's like, yeah, I lost this game, but I have 5 other Wimbledons or something like that, and it's kind of like, come on, man, just take it.
Exactly.
So just take the loss. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's gonna be epic. I think it's gonna.
You thinking Nadal?
I think it's gonna go the distance.
Yeah.
But I think Novak Djokovic, he's gonna dig deep, and I think he's gonna pull it out. I'm going 9-7 in the fifth set.
Very interesting.
I'm going 6-4 Joker, 6-4 first set, 6-3 second set by Nadal, 7-5 third set by Joker, 6-2 fourth set by Nadal, and then I'm going 9-7.
Oh wow!
Nice. And then Novak will complete the career Grand Slam.
Oh, very interesting.
Yeah.
Very, very interesting. Good stuff.
Good stuff. So that concludes our podcast for today. Barring any unforeseen circumstances, with Game 2, I heard they might move it to Houston if the AC units are repaired. But we'll definitely come back after Game 2 and talk about hopefully a good game, and at least from my end, a Heat win. We'll see what happens. All right, until next time, take care.
All right.
Bye.
Bye now.